there's still a lot of controversy about, is New York hip hop dead? I think that PreshaNYC from the Bronx, where hip hop, for the most part, I don't want anybody to yell at me, was founded. This is raw talent. Like, he's hungry, you can hear it. And this is like the young New York hip hop that's still very much alive. So I'm very honored. All right, welcome everyone to Fresh Artist Friday Rewind. I'm Sophia Chichi Lewis, the founder of Hip Hop Scriptures.
And I'm Priscilla Guadarrama, and I run the Fresh Artist Friday series on our blog.
Yes, and it's the first week of October, and I have a jacket on. It's not like freezing outside, but it's like crisp. I can't believe that like summer is like over.
I know. Here in New York, the weather was almost fall at the beginning of the week, and then it got warm again. Like yesterday, it was in the mid 70s.
Yeah.
So I'm ready for fall to hit. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. It's October. It's my birthday month, so it's like my new year. But so for September, we got 3 really interesting artists. Let's just jump right in, especially with the first artist that we got for our Fresh Artist Friday. And anybody that's joining, I know we got a lot of new subscribers. If you go to hiphopscriptures.com/blog, you'll see that we have Fresh Artist Friday features every Friday, as the name would imply. And so what we do every month is just kind of recap those submissions that were featured. And then Priscilla and I do the hard work at the end of deciding who our favorites are. So the first artist we had for September, it was an album submission. And it was Nicky Jam, Puerto Rican artist from Boston. I think he's now in Miami. And the album is called Infinity. So I'll let you kind of take the lead, because I know you're a big Nicky Jam's fan.
I am. I'm a big reggaeton fan. That's like, I grew up on hip hop and reggaeton. Those were like the 2 genres I grew up listening to the most. My whole family is low-key a Nicky Jam fan. He's been around forever. And this album from him was a cool mix of what he used to do and his newer sound. Like I said, he's been around for so long. I think like probably 15, 20 years that he's been making music. And like I said, the album showcases that a lot. My 2 favorite songs, I think, both of which he has features on, which I think features and reggaeton go like hand in hand together.
Yeah.
Where Magnum, that one features Jay Cortez. That one sounded very much like his old school music, old school reggaeton. And Jay Cortez kills it in every verse. I feel like if you know Jay Cortez, you know that he loves to do his features. He kills every feature he does, and this was no exception. And then the other song I really liked was Piquete, I believe. And that one features El Alfa, who's a Dominican rapper, Dembow, that's like his kind of music. And it was cool to see Nicky collaborate with him, because it's a very different song from what I feel like either of them go toward. El Alfa is more hardcore Dembow, Nicky Jam's more hardcore reggaeton, and this kind of met in the middle. What were your thoughts on the album?
I'm a big fan of how an album opens and how it closes. We talked about that on our Certified Lover Boy versus Donda video. So the first track, I'm just like, okay, let's party. Like, I'm not as familiar with Nicky Jam as you are, but like, I'm like, all right, I'm just like, immediately I'm dancing. And then he slows it down on the second track, which I actually appreciate, which is Miami. And I think that's the one we featured in the video that we shared. But as I was going through the album, it's funny because you mentioned one of the other standout tracks to me, which I hope I pronounced it right, Piquete. Yes. I was like dancing more than I was on the first one on Magnum. And I like the song Playa. For me, reggaeton is definitely like automatically, it's like infused in hip hop culture. I don't have a bunch of reggaeton in my playlist, but I really did enjoy this. And like you said, 15, 20 years, he still sounds like a fresh artist, which is why he was featured. So exactly. I really appreciate it. And for anyone that's listening who doesn't really listen to reggaeton, or is not familiar specifically with Nicky Jams, definitely check out the Infinity album. Because I was just like I said, you can't help unless you have like no rhythm or music inclination at all. Like you're gonna be like dancing, moving your hips.
Yeah. I went to the Bad Bunny concert a few years ago, and I sat in front of this guy who was telling me he doesn't speak a word of Spanish, like nothing at all. But what he said, and I quote, "When you're here, you feel the music." And I always think about that when reggaeton, like you don't have to understand anything of any of the lyrics. The beat speaks for itself, and this album is a great example of that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, shout out to Nicky
Mhm.
Jams and his team for the submission. All right, so our second Fresh Artist Friday for the month of September is PreshaNYC, and Presha is spelled Presha. He's from Soundview section of the Bronx. So his submission was interesting because he actually had a single that was being released a week before we featured him called Rags to Riches. But he submitted a SoundCloud song which is basically like the Lemon Pepper freestyle from Drake. And he killed it. Like before I even heard, we did get a chance to get a preview of Rags to Riches, but before we got a chance to connect, we both heard it and we were both like, yes, this is the one that we're featuring. The Lemon Pepper freestyle is the one we actually shared on our blog and on our social media. But what I appreciated about that is just like, it kind of talked about, I think something we all can relate to is like, this is who I am, but this is the man that I'm striving to be. And then the Rags to Riches, he like switches up the flow. It's like the beat, his voice, his cadence, it kind of like hits you over the head in a good way. And then just some of the lines, like we keeping it thugging and, RIP to the people and the things that basically don't serve you, which I think in general, like everything that's going on in the world and then social media, you see a lot of that. Like don't follow accounts that you don't feel inspired by. Don't have people in your circle that aren't either helping to push you, inspire you, support you. And so Rags to Riches is just like embodies all of that.
Yeah, when I first heard the song, I thought, man, this dude can rap. Like you said, his flow hits you over the head in the best way. If you haven't heard Rags to Riches, the Lemon Pepper freestyle is insane too. I'm so impressed by any freestyle, but the Rags to Riches song, his flow is insane to me. How crisp everything was. You could understand every single word he said, and every single word he said had meaning. Like you felt the dedication to his craft through that song. And if you haven't heard that song, make sure to go check it out and check out our blog post because it's pretty cool. And again, I think he's Puerto Rican as well, like Nicky Jam. We had two Puerto Rican artists back to back. So happy Hispanic Heritage Month.
I thought about that. I was like, we didn't even do this on purpose.
No, we didn't. We just had two awesome submissions back to back like that.
Yeah.
And I also want to add that in his bio, he talked about how some of his inspirations were Lil Wayne, J. Cole, and Eminem. And we like to talk about that a lot, how people who, when they cite who inspires them in their work, you can see it 100%. Like you see the influence of their favorite artists in their own art. And he's no exception to that either.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the three that you mentioned, whether you listen to the Rags to Riches single or the Lemon Pepper freestyle, I definitely hear all three influences, and I'm a huge fan of all the folks that he named as his influence. I think, there's still a lot of controversy about, is New York hip hop dead? I think that PreshaNYC from the Bronx, where hip hop, for the most part, I don't want anybody to yell at me, was founded. This is raw talent. Like he's hungry, you can hear it. And this is like the young New York hip hop that's still very much alive. So I'm very honored and thankful that we were able to feature him. And I'm definitely going to keep watching his career and whatever he puts out next. So I love it. Any other thoughts on Presha?
No, basically exactly what you said. I'm so excited to see where he goes. He's going to be an artist that I will definitely keep up on. just because exactly what you said, his talent was insane to me. I heard the song once and I immediately knew that's what we had to feature that week.
Yeah. And then our final submission, who also happens, he's from Long Island, The Butcher. It's an album submission like Nicky Jam's, and it's Underground Crown. So many things to say. And me personally, I don't know The Butcher personally, but we know each other through Twitter, hip hop Twitter, and social media. And so I've seen all of his just grinding to get, the album finished and like put it out there and just, just make it available for everyone. And there's a lot of artists that are part of like, my mutuals or whatever. So it's like, you never really know until you sit down and listen to it. And I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised. The name of the album, like I said, is Underground Crown. Has a very strong open with it's featuring Restless Mind. It's the intro. It builds to the second track, which is the title track, Underground Crown. And I felt like the album itself builds. It builds lyrically, it builds sonically, the beat selection, the features, and he just has an extremely strong storytelling ability. And he's very thoughtful the way that he ordered the tracks. Right Rhymes is actually, I know you have a different favorite from the album, but Right Rhymes really was my standout track. I felt like he writes the beat effortlessly, and every single song, every single word in the song, I feel like there's a sentiment behind it. Like he's rapping from the heart. And of course, the video that we featured was Agua. Again, strong storytelling, both in the song and the video, because it's like you just feel like you're in the neighborhood, like you feel like you're in the scene with him. And it has like, just very heavily melodic sound. What did you think of the album overall?
What I appreciated the most was the unique sound of the album. Sonically, it's so interesting to listen to. I feel like every song had a different vibe. It brought a different energy to the album. But pretty much, again, exactly what you said, they work together to tell a story so well. I feel like sometimes when an artist tries to branch out and go into different sounds within their one piece of work, it can get messy sometimes, and then there's no cohesion and you lose sight of what the album's about. Where this one, I feel like it did the opposite. It ventured out to a lot of different sounds, but it still very much felt like The Butcher, and each one was done so right to me. I wrote about that in the blog post, how I think the song Used to It had a very like 90s feel to me. Like that song could have come out forever ago. I felt like I had always known it. And there were other songs where I'm like, this sounds so different, and he still killed it. Like you wouldn't think that someone that was rapping on this song is now rapping on something that sounds entirely different from a whole different decade, a whole different genre of music. And he crushed it. I thought that album was so interesting to listen to, and it never had me bored. There wasn't a single song that I was like, oh no, I don't really like this one. They all sounded unique and they fit into the overall feeling of the album.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. There's definitely, telling my age, some 90s hip hop influence there. But like you said, there's so many sounds that are still part of this cohesive. Like I said, he's very thoughtful in every single song, every beat selection, every lyric, and even the order of the tracks. But, sometimes you have hip hop artists, whether they're mainstream or they blow up or whatever, and it's like, okay, they did great. This feels good. This sounds good. With The Butcher, I feel like he's a professional. Like he's a student. You can tell he's a student of both music and hip hop and lyricism. So I guess all three things. And so it's just really great. It needs definitely much more amplification and airplay. So for any folks in the industry that are watching this or listening, definitely go check out Underground Crown by The Butcher.
Speaking a little more on, his craft, he's been at this for a long time. I was reading his bio. It's not like this is his debut or anything. He's been making music for over a decade. And with that, he's still very rooted in his music. After the blog, like you said, he was reaching out on social media. He reached out to me directly, which is kind of rare for an artist to do. Usually they go through our hip hop scriptures page, but he reached out to thank us for the article and,
Yes.
was super grateful. And it meant a lot because I'm like, we loved your work. I'm glad that you were able to get something out of our work back to you. Super cool artist to work with.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right. Should I go first or you want to go first? We
You
gotta.
can go first. I feel like I always go first when picking an artist. This is your turn now.
Yes, I have to pick the artist. Thank you for saying that about, like you said, the Butcher's been at this for a while, and I think that's a great segue because Presha, this was his first actual single, Rags to Riches, and like I said, this is like the raw talent, the raw New York young hip hop, and so I'm just over the moon excited. He was also a pleasure to work with. Was very excitedly sharing our social posts on his feed with his audience, and just we just kind of went back and forth, sharing and resharing his single and also the Lemon Pepper freestyle. So I just want to emphasize that I'm very excited. You knocked it out of the park, Presha. What a way to kind of just drop a debut single. So I'm going to be watching him for a very long time. And Nicky Jam's, like, it was a pleasant, dessert for my ears to listen to Infinity. So now, I'm always expanding what I'm listening to. So I'll be kind of probably going backwards now because he has such a long career and listening to some of his previous work. And if you've been watching up to this point, then what I'm going to say is not a shock. My pick for September is the album submission Underground Crown by the Butcher. This is A+ work for hip hop. If you're a hip hop fan, regardless of what decade, if you go on hiphopscriptures.com, you literally can watch hip hop evolve decade by decade, because we have the bios segmented that way. And like you said, there's influences from the 90s. It's fresh. It's a cohesive album, which we felt was missing from, I'm not going to say the name of a mainstream artist that we reviewed recently. So it's a treat when you can listen to something like that, kind of like Kendrick Lamar's first album. Like every time I listen to it, it's not like I'm hearing it for the first time per se, but it's like, ooh, I get to hear a story. So great job to the Butcher. I hope he gets more fans from this and hopefully more interviews. Well deserved.
Definitely. I think this might be the first time we have the same pick for the month. I agree. The Butcher, like, to me, stole the show. To me, he represents exactly what I look for in a fresh artist. It's a fresh piece of work, something that is innovative and that I haven't heard before, but is still unique to that artist. Like, I can listen to it and immediately know, like, oh, that's the Butcher's work. And what I was so blown away, because again, like you said, there's been some mainstream albums we've covered that I did not get that energy from at all, that I was left disappointed is a heavy word, but I was left wanting more from the album. And I didn't feel that way at all with Underground Crown. I was engaged the whole time. Every song, I was excited to listen to it, and I still listen to that album all the time. An artist, essentially, is how I felt listening to his work. So he's my pick of the month as well, for pretty similar reasons as to why you chose him. And the cherry on top was that he was so great to work with, super communicative, super grateful. And I'll be following him and see all his work in the future.
Awesome. Any shout outs? Because I have a few shout outs I want to give at the end, but
go ahead.
Okay.
Shout outs.
First shout out, Apollo Lofton. We covered him in our wrap up for the July artist submissions, and he was your top pick. I think he was close to my top pick. He was like my top two, and we both said that he was one of the few artists that we keep in rotation. And I was in Miami recently, and I reached out to him, and it just so happened that at the same time that I was reaching out to him, he was celebrating having been reached out to by Drake. And I know he's done some articles on that. So shout out to Apollo. And I want to give a shout out to our small but mighty team that is growing. In one form or another, you guys will get to meet our new teammates. So shout out to Sasha and Jasmine and Cassandra. We're very excited to have you on the team. And last, just a shout out to ourselves. We are kind of doing the PR rounds and just amplifying how Hip Hop Scriptures takes the hip hop culture and user experience and brings it together. And a lot of you watching are new subscribers because we have done that with our album anniversary infographics that we've been sharing here on YouTube in the animated version and in other social channels. So that was a lot, but I wanted to, important shout outs. So I wanted to give those shout outs.
Yeah, super cool. I'm super excited for everyone to meet our new team members. I'm excited to get to know them even more. It feels good. We have good energy around Hip Hop Scriptures right now. I'm excited for our future. And please make sure to check out the new artists. I think we have 2 artists posted so far for October 8th, since there's been 2 Fridays already. So go check them out. And comment below if you have a favorite already, who we're gonna review for next month.
I was thinking that right before we started chatting about September, like, man, today's only like, this is only like the first week of October and we already got some really strong submissions. So when we do this at the beginning of November, this is going to be a very interesting conversation.
Yeah,
indeed. But yes, thank you for that. Definitely check out who we've featured so far in October. All right, well, as usual, killed it, had a great time. I can't wait for everyone to weigh in the comments and keep supporting Hip Hop Scriptures, and we'll see you next time. We have some surprises coming.
Yeah.
All right, take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.